I never thought I'd be in this situation. I teach mathematics at Harvard, high-level courses, complex theories, logical precision. I'm married to a wonderful woman, and we've built a stable, happy life together. But something happened this semester that I never expected. It started subtly. A student in my Calculus 2 class, let's call her Emma, began sending me messages. At first, they were harmless. Questions about assignments, clarifications on problems. I didn't think much of it. After all, students contact me all the time, especially those who are ambitious and dedicated. Emma was certainly one of those. She was bright, always attentive in class, and had a way of understanding concepts deeply. She reminded me of myself when I was younger. But then, her messages took a different turn. One evening, as I was grading papers in my office, I received a text from an unknown number. "Professor, I hope I'm not bothering you. I just wanted to say I really admire the way you teach. It makes me love math even more." I frowned slightly. It was unusual for students to send personal messages outside of class-related discussions. I responded politely, thanking her and assuming the conversation would end there. But a few days later, another message came. "I don't know if I should be saying this, but I always look forward to your lectures. Not just because of the subject, but because of you." I stared at the screen. That was unexpected. Maybe I was misreading it. Maybe she just meant I was a good teacher. But something about the wording felt different. I decided not to respond right away. In class, I started noticing things. The way Emma looked at me, the way she always sat near the front, the way she lingered after lectures. And then, the messages became more direct. "Do you believe in fate, Professor? Sometimes I feel like meeting you was meant to happen." That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just admiration. This was something more. I'm not going to lie, Emma was beautiful. She had an effortless confidence, an intelligence that was attractive in its own right. But I was married. Happily married. There was no room for anything beyond a professional relationship. I decided to put some distance between us. I stopped responding to messages that weren't strictly academic. In class, I was careful not to engage with her more than necessary. If she lingered, I made sure to leave quickly. I thought that would be the end of it. But then one evening I received another message, one that made my stomach sink. "I know you're married, but I can't stop thinking about you." I sighed, rubbing my temples. This was a line I couldn't ignore. I needed to set boundaries, to make it clear that nothing could happen between us. But how do you do that without hurting someone? Without making the classroom environment awkward? I took a deep breath and started typing a response, knowing that whatever I said next would define how this situation played out. I sat there staring at the screen, rereading Emma's message. "I know you're married, but I can't stop thinking about you." I knew I had to respond, but I had to be careful. The last thing I wanted was to embarrass her or escalate things. I typed out my reply slowly, choosing each word deliberately. "Emma, I appreciate your honesty, but I need to make something clear. I am your professor, and I take that responsibility seriously. I am happily married, and I cannot engage in any conversations beyond academics. I hope you understand." I hesitated before hitting send, but I knew it was the right thing to do. I watched the message deliver, then turned off my phone, hoping this would be the end of it. The next morning in class, Emma was there as usual. But something had changed. She didn't raise her hand as much, didn't stay behind to ask questions. She still sat near the front, but her usual enthusiasm was gone. I tried not to let it distract me as I lectured, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I had hurt her. Later that evening, I received another message. "I understand. I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable." I sighed in relief. That was the best response I could have hoped for. I quickly typed back, "Thank you, Emma. I appreciate that." For a week, everything seemed normal again. I focused on my lectures, my students, and my work. Emma continued attending class, but she kept her distance, which was exactly what I had hoped for. Then, one afternoon, I found something unexpected on my office desk. A letter. At first, I assumed it was from a student asking for a recommendation or extra help. But as I unfolded the paper and began reading, I realized it was from Emma. "Dear Professor, I know I said I would stop and I will. But I need to tell you how I feel just once, without expecting anything in return. I have never met someone like you, so intelligent, kind, and passionate about what you do. I know you are married and I respect that. But if life were different, I think we could have been something. I don't want to make things difficult for you. I promise not to cross any lines again. But I needed to say this at least once, so I don't regret it. Thank you for being an incredible teacher. I will always admire you. Emma. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. The letter wasn't inappropriate, just honest. And it was clear she was letting go. I knew the best thing I could do was not acknowledge it. Responding could blur the line again. So, I folded the letter carefully and put it in my desk drawer, deciding to leave it there, unread by anyone else. I thought that was the end of it. I really did. But I was wrong. Because 2 days later, I saw Emma outside of class. And she wasn't alone. She was with my wife. I froze. It was a crisp autumn afternoon, and I had just finished a faculty meeting. As I walked across campus, my mind still lingering on Emma's letter, I saw them, Emma and my wife, standing together near a cafe. My wife, Claire, was smiling politely, while Emma looked nervous. My stomach twisted. How did they even know each other? Did Emma seek her out? Or was this just an awful coincidence? I forced myself to approach casually. Claire, I greeted, keeping my voice steady. What a surprise. She turned to me with her usual warmth. Hey love, I was just grabbing coffee when I ran into one of your students. Emma, right? Emma gave me a small, almost guilty smile. Yes, Professor. I didn't realize this was your wife. I studied her face carefully. Was she telling the truth? Or was she testing me? Claire continued, oblivious to the tension. Emma was just telling me how much she enjoys your class. She says you're one of the best professors she's had. I nodded, forcing a smile. That's kind of you, Emma. Emma held my gaze for a second longer than necessary before turning back to Claire. It's true. He's brilliant. Claire beamed. That's why I married him. She playfully nudged my arm. I felt a bead of sweat on my back. This was a dangerous moment. If Emma wanted to, she could say something, anything, that could plant doubt in Claire's mind. But she didn't. Instead, Emma adjusted her bag and took a small step back. It was nice meeting you, Mrs. Carter. You're lucky to have him. Claire laughed. I know. Emma gave me one last look, then turned and walked away. I exhaled slowly. Claire looped her arm through mine. She's sweet. You always talk about how dedicated your students are, but it's nice to meet one in person. I forced another smile. Yeah, she's a bright student. As we walked home, my mind raced. That encounter could have gone very differently. Emma had power. She could have exposed her feelings, caused drama, or even subtly implied something that wasn't true. But she didn't. Instead, she walked away. That night, I opened my desk drawer and took out Emma's letter one last time. After rereading it, I did something I probably should have done earlier. I shredded it. Emma was young, brilliant, and experiencing emotions that probably felt overwhelming. But I had a life, a wife I loved, a career I had worked hard for. I couldn't let a fleeting infatuation threaten that. The next time I saw Emma in class, she acted as if nothing had ever happened. And I followed her lead. By the end of the semester, she had moved on. And so had I.